I want to talk about the concept of being blacklisted. Now, a lot of people, don't really fully understand how this game works, but the reality is you can actually become blacklisted. You can be blacklisted from joining a club. In the old days, in a private club, someone would be nominated to join that club, and any club member typically would have the ability to say that the individual was not of the right character, the right moral fibre to join the club. And so they had this concept of a black ball. And I think in the old days, they used to have like a jar and you'd have white balls and black balls. And if there were any black balls, that meant you couldn't join the club. So I've actually heard of this happening in modern times in very prestigious clubs. I know of a very high profile businessman who tried to apply to a private gentleman's club, and he was blackballed because he had done some terrible things in business, and he had really ripped off investors, and it had left a nasty taste in the business community, and people were aware of this. And when he came up for nomination, he was actually blacklisted, and several people said, no, this person shouldn't be joining the club. And, it must be quite hard when you're blacklisted because, in society, there are still these factors. Now, can you be blacklisted in other parts of the world and in life? Yes, of course you can be. And I just want to talk about 3 scenarios where you'll potentially put yourself in real jeopardy from a career perspective in your dealings with headhunters. The first will be if you try and circumvent a headhunter. So a headhunter might confidentially brief you about a role. They might tell you who the organisation is. They might share with you a job description. And for whatever reason, they may decide not to shortlist you. They may decide that there are other candidates that are better suited to that brief. They've been given the brief by the company. They understand what the company's looking for. But you think you know better, and you go around that headhunter and you contact the company directly. That is the number one way to get yourself blacklisted by a corporate headhunter: circumventing their judgment, trying to circumvent the process and going direct to the company. Now, contractually, the executive search firm is in an extremely strong position, and they will be briefed that you have gone past them and gone to the company. The company will be aware that you've probably been longlisted and maybe not considered for the shortlist. So usually the company is fully informed, and they don't always take kindly either to you going around them. So that's the number one way you can get yourself really into some hot water. The second way you can get yourself into hot water is if you ghost an executive search consultant. And this can often happen in the final stages of a recruitment process. You might have been issued an offer. You may, be sort of, in dialogue with the headhunter all the way up to this point, and then suddenly crickets, radio silence. You don't respond to telephone calls. You don't let the company know what you're going to do. You don't let them know that you're not going to accept the offer and you're going in another direction. Professional courtesies go out the window. Number one way to make sure you're never going to be put on a shortlist again with that firm. And, good news, bad news travels a lot faster. So you can do enormous damage to yourself when you don't act professionally all the way through a recruitment process, and just be transparent about where you're at and why you might not be accepting an offer, etc., etc. There's a whole raft of ways you can handle that situation professionally. And then the absolute worst of the worst is someone who accepts a job offer, signs a contract, and then either doesn't show up on day one or turns up on day one and leaves on day one. And I've had it happen a few times in my career. And unfortunately, the reality is that is really going to damage your reputation, and it's going to have a very big impact on whether that headhunter is going to work with you again. And in most experiences, they probably won't. They won't touch you. So that's how you get blacklisted in the executive search market, doing those 3 key things: circumvention, not being professional and communicative, and really letting people down contractually. If you've agreed to a contract and then you want to sort of renege on the contract, it really can have quite lasting impacts on your personal business reputation. Consider before you act.